on evolving controls and compliance landscape, leveraging automation and analytics. For this session, we are having three speakers, Nidhi Mittal, Sakshi Sahni, and Garima Lakhanpal. To introduce Nidhi Mittal, she is the risk and compliance professional with 11 plus years of experience, focusing on regulatory compliance, process consulting, risk assessment, internal audit, and third-party screening. Currently, she is leading the anti-bribery, anti-corruption solution at Genpact, having steered the development and deployment of an analytics-based digital solution for monitoring disbursements and fraud risk across multiple clients. She's a mother of two boys, happily juggling between work and joy of motherhood. Next, we have on the panel Sakshi Sahni. She's also a qualified chartered accountant with 9 years of experience. She's the risk and compliance professional with a focus on regulatory compliance, anti-bribery, anti-corruption solution in Genpact for multiple clients across industries. She's having expertise in coordinating cross-functional teams to manage compliance reviews, briberies and corruption audits, internal audits, digital T&E and AP audits, self-control, self-assessments, internal audit, controls review, and SOX audits. Next, we have with us Garima Lakhanpal. She is a risk and compliance professional with nearly 8 years of experience in both internal and external SOX audit domain for IT controls. Other area of experience include internal audit, system review, risk assessment, driving automation initiatives, etc. Currently, she is leading the IT SOX solution at Genpact ERC, responsible for modernizing the traditional way of delivering controls by including automation, analytics, and agile. So I hope all of you will enjoy this discussion. Over to you, Sakshi, to take the proceedings for this panel discussion.
Sure. Thanks, Anna. Good afternoon, everyone. So today's topic of discussion is around evolving controls and compliance landscape by leveraging automation and analytics, a very relevant topic indeed in today's changing environment. So today we would like to focus on three key aspects. First, the changes that we are seeing in controls and compliance landscape. Second, the challenges that it is posing for the organizations. And third would be around the solutions and the ways of dealing with those challenges. So in today's world, everything is becoming virtual, and COVID-19 has definitely sped up the pace of virtualization and has actually ended up creating new risks. For instance, as per a FCPA blog, more than 500 coronavirus-related scams and 2,000 plus phishing attempts reported in last year itself. Along with that, another change, like we are seeing adoption of work from home models across company globally, and with the digital implementations across processes, most of the conversations are happening over email. Monitoring sanctity of emails has brought forward another big risk. FBI reported that business email compromise and email account compromise accounted for 166,000 incidents globally and an estimated $26 billion losses for a 3-year period, which is absolutely huge. And new risks combined with existing challenges have resulted in an increased loss of revenue to fraud every year and increased control complexity. So as per certified fraud examiners, estimate that organizations lose 5% of the revenue to fraud every year, with the average loss per case coming to around 1.5 million. And lack of internal controls are actually contributing to nearly 1/3 of such frauds. As per 2020 AFP survey, 81% of the organizations with revenue more than $1 billion USD were hit by payment fraud in 2019. So amid of this increase in frauds, I would like to ask my colleague Nidhi, how are you seeing the risk, digital and automation surface? And what are your thoughts about the changes in the compliance landscape? You're on mute, Nidhi.
Thank you, Sakshi. I will largely categorize the changes in controls landscape under 4 key themes. And the first one being business models and operating structures are becoming more and more complex, specifically with rapid growth in distributed business and outsourcing, which is impacting the control framework for the organizations. The second one, but again, one of the key ones being technological advancements. Virtual is now becoming the new reality, and it is creating its own new risk landscape, such as cybersecurity. And while it is creating a new landscape, it is also quickening and increasing the magnitude of a damage of an operational or a strategic failure can inflict on organizations' reputation. The third one being constant evolution of domestic and international regulations with more and more changes in organizational structures. And just to give an example, very soon, Indian companies will have to comply with framework requirements of individuals' data protection under Personal Data Protection Bill of 2019. Now, that is definitely not to say that rules don't exist as of today. There is definitely IT Rules Act of 2011. But of course, the pace of development of digital economy has shown some of the shortcomings of the existing rules and hence need for enhancement in regulatory requirements as well. And the fourth one I'll say is globalization. Regulatory and legislative requirements, including their reach and penalties, are crossing geographical boundaries today more than ever before. An Indian organization can be as well be impacted by a law that is passed anywhere in the globe. And just to take one such example, GDPR, it is such a perfect example of how a European Union-based law impacts almost all global organizations. And all of these changes have resulted in three key things. First one being enhanced pressure on controls and compliance teams that they are trying to deal with, increasing data security and cybersecurity risks, and increasing fraud and bribery risk, as you also laid out through some of the facts that you presented. And with that, as we see that it is resulting in a lot of challenges for the organizations, Garima, what are you seeing across most of your clients and organizations, the challenges that they are facing in ensuring compliance amidst this changing environment?
So Nidhi, I would broadly categorize some of the key themes of challenges that I've heard our clients talk about or I've seen the clients experience in keeping pace with all that is changing in the company's landscape. The first and foremost being the struggle with massive data. The clients struggle with handling volumes of data and information, and organizations don't always have the right tools and technologies at the right time to deal with the amount of data being ingested into the systems and the data being generated, especially in a manner that would give them insights into the potential areas of risks or detect fraud patterns or spend anomalies, right? And in fact, according to a recent Blackline study, 30% of the respondents reported not having enough automated controls and checks in place, given the growing transactions. The second key theme that I've seen is that controls still remain just an afterthought. Now, while this is definitely changing and people are getting more aware about their internal controls environment and the requirement to keep up with it, most of the organizations still have controls as an afterthought and not planned out during the initial stage gates. There's an entire system transformation journey being undertaken, and in a wave of change that is this large, if controls are not embedded into the DNA of the change, a plug-and-play approach does not always work, and the clients are not able to handle the amount of change that is required henceforth to apply such controls. And the third thing I would say is, there's a lack of domain expertise in technology to keep pace with the changing compliance requirements, given the level of automation being brought in the processes within the organization. Now, the technology changes are often niche and required specialized skills to identify compliance domains and regulations in the new systems should adhere to. And generally, such niche skills are not housed under the same roof, and there's a need to outsource such technical compliance domain to the subject matter expertise. And Sakshi, what do you think your experience have been with some of the clients that you have seen, or what your clients are struggling with the most?
So according to me, Garima, typically the controls landscape for all processes is governed by following three aspects. First would be organizations' global process and policies, and the regional and the entity level addendums. Second would be the different systems or platform that an organization might be using. So one might have a financial reporting system, ERP system like SAP, Oracle, different version across the globes, and of course, legacy systems, HR systems, master data management, pricing, payroll, and others. And third would be actually global and local regulatory nuances. So given the evolving regulatory landscape and the business environment, manual review mechanisms, according to me, prove to be inefficient and incomplete. It doesn't give organizations the right level of comfort that the unauthorized activities are getting detected. No, this is not just in my experience, but as per Blackline study, what we have seen, which was conducted, so 55% of the finance professionals share that they are not entirely confident they can identify financial errors before reporting results. Even in a survey which was conducted by our organization in 2019, where audit, risk, and compliance professionals participated across the globe, 32% respondents were not confident that there is no fraud going on in their organization, while only 17% were very confident. And what I see as the biggest challenge is that most of the organizations still continue to rely on manual audits. Again, supporting it with some facts, there was another survey that was conducted by Genpact in November 2020, where 600 plus professionals participated across the industries. More than 57% of the organizations were still relying on the manual or Excel-based audits. And as per 2019, SOX and Internal Controls survey, 73% of the organizations were still using desktop tools like Excel, Word, or key components of their SOX and internal control process. So that is the take on my controls landscape. I would like to ask you, Garima, how are some of your clients dealing with these challenges?
So I think I would say, there are two key ways that we're helping our clients to tackle the challenges that we just talked about. One is, of course, bringing in the domain expertise under one roof. And the second one would be combining that domain expertise with some of our digital solutions and approaches to help them with their processes, right? And I'll just speak from an entity level perspective. Like we have clients, we help clients review their policies, processes, systems, so say Concur or SAP, for example, and benchmark them with the leading practices of the industry and identify ways in which we can help define the inbuilt system controls and bridge the policy gaps. We help them assess their controls automation maturity and then identifying areas where some of the manual controls can be replaced by standard or let's say custom system configurable controls to help them move forward in their journey of the automation continuum. And, I'll just take an example here, which might resonate with a lot of people. But when we say we help them identify redundant manual steps within their control procedures, take a very simple access professional control, for an example, that's going to be applicable for every IT system that the organizations have, and they're trying to manage all of the access management issues, right? So we can help them automate right from, the process of creating tickets, requesting approvals, performing upfront segregation of duties assessments, till the time of provisioning access, and also enable system configurations that prevent a user to bypass some of this workflow, thereby addressing that risk. Or take change management for an example. That's going to be part of any system transformation journey and an integral part of your controls landscape. Building a simple change route or a workflow can eliminate some of the much needed efforts to mitigate that risk. Or take workflow-based review, for example, right? For a substantive testing, which is, bases your population, using operational rules on your population as part of your analytics, we can review targeted exceptions and develop a strong remediation tracking at the same time maintaining the audit trail in the systems, which provides a much stronger control assurance framework. And this not only reduces the cost of maintaining the controls or, in other words, cost of compliance by reducing critical resource efforts, it also minimizes the risk of human error, which in my experience, frankly, has been the single most prominent cause of deficiencies. But all of this comes with adding a lot of data within the system, and dealing with the huge amount of data seems to be becoming a big challenge. What do you think, Nidhi? What has your experience been? How are clients embracing the digital to deal with this volume of data?
Right. So Garima, and very well, you very well laid out how we are trying to review policy processes and build in system controls. And in terms of data, definitely, I think as we all realize and see around us, it is becoming a very big challenge to derive meaningful insights of the data. The way I see the solution to this is in two parts. First is data aggregation, and the second is data analytics. So, as I talk about data aggregation, instead of spending countless hours in gathering data from different sources, we are moving towards a more standardized approach of building custom data extractors that run on a wide variety of technologies. And just to take an example, we build a system of engagement to pull data from different sources, which could be the financial reporting systems, disbursement systems, such as accounts payable and travel and entertainment, HR systems, master data, including vendor masters and others, pricing information, distributor details, sales. All of that data is under one system of engagement. And while all of that is done, there are automated interface related controls that are inbuilt to ensure data security while data flows from one system to the other. That helps us basically aggregate all the data. And then we run analytics on it to identify potential issues that organizations should focus on. And just to give a few examples, if I talk about regulatory non-compliance, payments to sanctioned and high-risk third parties is becoming a very big risk for all the organizations across the globe. Just imagine the number of vendors and contractors a big retail chain such as a Big Bazaar or a Reliance will have to deal with. Analytics and automation can come a long way in helping them. Even before a vendor is onboarded, there can be an automated process where all the vendors are screened against the databases to identify if it is a high-risk third party. And if it turns out to be one, then either it is rejected or right approvals and mitigation steps are taken before onboarding that vendor. And not just this one-time activity, a continuous review mechanism can be built where if any of the existing vendors are sanctioned or blacklisted by a regulatory body, a red flag is raised in the system to indicate that and the compliance teams can accordingly take the right measures. So that is how it basically just helps organizations get these insights. Likewise, all the risks as we talk about, including policy non-compliances, there are very simple ways in which these can be tracked using analytics. The one being keyword search to identify unauthorized payments or personal payments, threshold breaches for any payments or expenses above thresholds without required approvals, monitoring of fraud risks, again, which is becoming such a big challenge for all the organization. Just take example of a duplicate payment. Analytics can very easily help us identify duplicate payments against the same claim, and that too across different disbursement systems as well, including AP, T&E, and payroll. Review of rebates and discounts to the customers and distributors. Imagine a distributor who seems to be constantly getting discounts above average or above normal. We might want to investigate further into it to see why is that happening. If there are justified reasons and required approvals in place to do that, we are all fine. Otherwise, we might want to investigate further into it. Pricing variations in sale for same products, non-recovery of returns and adjustments from vendors. Imagine that is one of the key areas where organizations end up losing a lot of hard dollars. And if there is proper tracking of all of these through analytics, this can bring in hard dollar savings for them. Well, those are just some of the things that I am seeing. I definitely see a lot more potential and usage of analytics. And Garima, I'm sure beyond this, you would also be seeing a lot of use of analytics and might want to share some examples with us.
That and how it can help you are vast, right? But let me take one prominent example that comes to my mind when we combine automation and digital. consider the financial flows process and what combining the two, automation and analytics, can derive. Let's take the data down. And now, in a very easy to read and strategic way, by using analytics and automation, we can find out one, how many out of period journal entries were posted? What were the repeat offenders for posting such entries post the close period? Where was the highest concentration of post period reversals? Or how many master data changes were done just before the close process and reversed? What has been the history of prior posting periods being opened by the users or applications which resulted in the highest manual reconciliation, even after an interface? Or maybe what were some of the reconciliation errors repeated in an intercompany accounting? Now, take all of this data and will give them crisp insights into where most of the inefficiencies in their close process lie, which is one of the major pain points, within an organization. And what this would do is this would help them understand where their efforts should be focused to derive the most out of their automation journey. What about you, Sakshi? What have some of your experiences been?
So, Garima, what I have seen can be summarized in few elements. So, first and most important is the use of artificial intelligence, machine learning, OCR, which is becoming absolutely crucial to review the transactions over and above the analytics that Nidhi and you just spoke about. Reporting and dashboarding is another key element and an essential one. This helps in providing visibility to key stakeholders and enable them to take action on a timely basis. So use of this interactive dashboards with the drill down functionalities actually helps them providing the view as per the stakeholders requirement and is very important and effective. So for instance, if I talk about population profiling dashboard, it helps identify high risk region, entities, payment types, and individual vendor payments to related parties and third parties. So if I take an example of an e-commerce industry client, given its importance in today's age, explain how profiling helps the stakeholders in their decision-making process. So as we are aware that there are regulatory requirements in India around protection of small and medium-sized vendor, population profiling will actually help the organization plot their sales by product type, by vendor, by region, and other parameters as needed. The dashboard will actually give the executives a clear view of the sales that are being contributed by different vendors. The abbreviation will be highlighted, and if there are only a handful of vendors that are contributing to a large part of the sale, then they just need to understand the reasons behind it. And as long as there is a justified reason, it is very easy to explain this to the regulators. So not only just population profiling dashboard that I just talked about, but identification and reporting of other trends and patterns is quite essential. So let me take a few examples around travel and entertainment expenditure, wherein dashboards or trends and patterns, dashboards around the trends and patterns like, so repeat offenders, for example, if employees having policy non-compliances on a repeated basis, or employees incurring expenses with the same attendees multiple times during the same period, employees claiming hotel meal expenses without corresponding airfare expenses, managers with employees having maximum non-compliances, or high-risk transactions highlighted based on suspicious merchant category codes listing. Another example would be unusual high discounts given to the distributors for a special order or otherwise, which is used by the distributor to fund the bribes to the official. This actually gives visibilities of area that management should be focusing on and on a timely basis. So while this technology implementation, we also helps them in imbibing these changes through the change management process by helping them in creation of right communication, absorption of such changes across the organization. Another important element is training. So building training materials is also helping with the training for employees, managers on policy and updates, and also for auditors on tools and policy changes to ensure that the change management process is streamlined and smooth. Lastly, also to set up governance and operating modalities, which is also very essential around any solution that we have implemented, thereby ensuring better visibility to stakeholders and enhanced monitoring. These
How do
were
you see this impacting your clients, Sakshi? Like,
Yeah.
how does that impact?
Yes. So basically, basis my experience, all of that we just discussed, automation, analytics, AI, reporting, dashboarding, change management, etc. It helps the organization. That I have seen is that avoidance of multi-million dollars penalty due to non-compliances. It can bring in potential recovery and hard dollar savings through leakage identification, audit, control, fix, and recovery of past payables. Provides It actually provides enhanced coverage. Like I spoke about artificial intelligence, 100% transactions coverage. It helps to have the risk coverage around policy, regulatory, and frauds using data augmentation and these technology advancements. Reduce manual audit effort and reduction in compliance cost over a period of time. It also helps in reduction in human errors and enhance controls and compliance across the organization. It has actually also helped in creating the center of excellence, COE, for leveraging best practice and achieve process harmonization. We have helped the clients make the process and policy best in class by leveraging benchmarking capabilities. So team of risk and compliance experts that, like we spoke about, will share the best in class practices in process policy system, followed by companies of similar industry background. So those were some of the impact that I have seen, Garima.
So basically, if I were to sum up what Nidhi and Sakshi, you were talking about, and what my experiences have been, I'd say the constant theme is that using automation and analytics has resulted in a wider, quicker, and targeted assurance, and has definitely helped the companies give them data insights beyond the traditional controls, and at the same time has optimized the cost of compliance. I think with that, and given that we're almost out of time, I'd like to wrap up this session. Thank you everyone for attending. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us at the exhibition halls during the event, or please send in your questions to the IA and we will go ahead and respond as soon as possible. Thank you. Over to you.
Thanks, Nidhi, Sakshi, for the very insightful session. We are actually running a little session on time.